the manager here at the Innovation Hub. I help with a lot of the administrative tasks with regards to the Accelerator. I'm here to help you guys stay organized, as well as Kimberly stay organized with everyone. So when I am her, I promise I'm not mean, even though Tasha kind of made me seem that way. I do send a lot of emails, a lot of correspondence, because I'm just trying to be sure that you guys are all meeting your requirements and that you guys are on schedule for your quarterly meetings and whatnot. So the program management software that we'll be using is Basecamp. Probably on this Thursday, I'm going to be sending all of you guys your access to this. You'll have, how it works is you'll have your own individual folder. Within that folder, all of your mentors have access to view that. And then you'll also have access to the Texas Tech Accelerator main folder. And so in this main folder, that's where we'll house all of our course syllabuses that you guys will be going for Advanced Hub Camp. Any materials, your entire binder that you guys have right here will all be housed on Basecamp. Mentors will all have access to this as well. With the mentors, if you get very aggravated with a lot of the notifications you get from the software, feel free to call me and I can help you guys fix that so you're not getting constantly asked, what are you doing today? Or what's your goals this week? Because Basecamp will ask that. So therefore, if you have any troubleshooting, if you have access issues, if you have any trouble removing things from Basecamp that you don't want people to have accessibility to, I can help you with that. Be aware this is a public domain. If there's anything that you do not want to be kind of housed in there, just don't do it. Pretty much what Basecamp is for all of your program requirements. So when Kimberly's asking you for milestones, you'll just upload it to that camp just to meet that requirement. For our virtual participants, I know some of you guys and some of our mentors, they won't actually physically be capable of coming to your meetings, so you do have the option for Zoom. I'm not sure if you guys ever use Zoom. It's very easy. We'll provide just one person on each team access, and it's your responsibility to set the meetings and send the links to your virtual mentors to be sure that everyone can participate in a timely manner. And that's about it, yeah. So if you have any questions in regards, yes, Mike?
Could I just make one comment? If you're posting files to Basecamp, the last 6 characters should be the date of your file, so we know which iteration is last posted.
Because you'll probably have several use of proceeds, several milestones, so just be sure that you guys are updating it with the date. I've seen a lot of what the other teams do is they kind of have like a history folder, an archive folder, so they'll always upload the new one and then archive the old one. The more organized you guys keep that, the easier for you, easier for mentors. Everyone has the ability to access, everything in a timely manner.
Don't we have the initials folder set up?
Yes, we do. But I'm going to provide access following the ribbon cutting. Because we're going to have a separate orientation on next Wednesday. It's going to be 3 to 5 p.m., 3 to 4. It's going to be going through our emergency action plan for the Innovation Hub. So a lot of you guys will actually be housing your company here. You'll have access to, it's a little bit confusing, you have access to the shared co-working space that is called Basecamp up here as well. So you'll have 24/7 access to the Innovation Hub facility. You have all that shared co-working space to actually do your projects or whatnot for your business. So all of those trainings and more or less your Accelerator onboarding, you guys have a tab, I think it's the second to the last, your onboarding. Those are the materials that we will be going through next week. I know you guys are in information overload right now. So, we'll take care of all of the paperwork and all of those aspects next week. So, yeah.
All right, so we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive here into roles and responsibilities. So, if you could just flip to that page in your notebook. All right, so a little bit of background on this. Again, I mentioned earlier that some of you are doing a startup for the very first time, which means that you might not know all of the activities and tasks that need to be done to create a successful startup. And so we took some of that guesswork out and created the outline for roles and responsibilities. Let's switch this here. The first is the CEO. Does anyone want to take a stab at what a CEO is and what the responsibility is? How about you, Robert? You're a CEO. What do you think your role is?
Make decisions, lead the company.
What else?
Put together agendas, schedule everything. their jobs, filling the roles, fill in the gaps where there's no one doing the job.
Raise the money, set the strategy, the vision, right? So as the CEO is described in this program, the buck stops there, right? If you're wearing the CEO hat, that means between you and this program, you're who I meet with on a quarterly basis. You're the person that I'm coming to make sure that your team, your mentor team is functioning the way it needs to for you to achieve success at the end of this program and hopefully launch a successful startup. Make sense? So I'm not going to go through all of these details, but it's here for a reason, to remind you that we've been very thoughtful in putting these roles and responsibilities together. So we want you to be very thoughtful as you sit down as a team to think through the strengths and weaknesses of the team. You know, we're not going to do a SWOT analysis on you. We're not going to survey you. You are going to sit face to face and talk through all of the details in each one of these roles and responsibilities so that you can make sure that all of the milestones are met throughout the year-long program. Okay? So as Robert said, you know, he's the leader. He's the CEO of Embryonics. Right? We look for someone that can convey the vision of the company, set the vision for the company, and to be able to identify where those gaps are, because ultimately they block and tackle for resources, and your people are your biggest asset, right? So if you don't have the right people on the right spot on the bus, then what happens? So they have to have that very strategic view, and they have to be able to articulate why things are or aren't working. Right? And so accountability is really, really key. All right? Some of the detail that's on these slides is not as detailed as it is in that Gantt chart that we looked at earlier. Those are very, very specific and really cover almost everything that you really need to do. Okay? If you're going to wear the CEO hat and there's something that might be missing from what we have here, and we need to add to the responsibilities of this team in this role, then please let your mentors know, because we'll add that to what needs to be accomplished over the course of the program. All right. One of the important things that I do want to emphasize here, I mentioned it earlier, company formation is key. Right? So understanding what type of company you want to be, why you're selecting that, and then actually going through the steps of forming that company so that you can receive the grant funding is really important. Okay? In your first hub camp, your advanced hub camp course, you're going to meet with, well actually I think it's a session 2, I can't remember now, but you're going to learn from an attorney some of those details. There are resources that are at the front end of your syllabus that give you access to SBA so you can get an EIN number. There's all the steps in your syllabus that you have to do for company formation. So I would suggest when you have a moment to take a look at that, you can meet with any one of us to get started on that before you actually get to the session where we review that. Remember, it's a flipped classroom model. We'll expect you have looked at the resources to actually register the company and establish it and so on. Any questions there? All right. Next slide. Oh, this is key milestones. Okay. ASAP, as soon as possible. Finalize your use of proceeds, right? Establish a budget, right? You get a $25,000 grant. What are you using it for? Finalize and execute the Accelerator agreement with the hub. You'll do that today. Carly's got copies here that every member of the team will have to sign and date. Finalize your meeting with your mentor team. So Carly has been circulating a schedule. We're setting the mentor meetings up for the first week of the month. And the reason that we're doing that is so that by the time we get to the second week of the month, which is when we bring all of our mentors together, we feed them, we help each other to go to deal with the things that are keeping you up at night, and we want to make sure that you meet before we actually meet so that we can be expeditious in helping you, okay? So this will be your set time. It'll be, we'll have a reserved conference room for you, and we'll always want to know that's your set time. I think it will reduce any confusion about meetings. Okay? Has everyone received the sign-up sheet for when they want to? Okay, good. Talked about company formation, finalized 6 and 12-month milestones. So it's going to default to the milestones that are in your roles and responsibilities. If there's anything new that we needed to add, some of you had contingencies to be accepted into the Accelerator program to help you, hopefully, and not hinder you. That will be added to your contract as an appendix. All right. The others are pretty self-explanatory. Remember, each team does meet with myself and the lead mentor quarterly. That's to make sure that everybody is on track. We don't like surprises around here, and we want to make sure you graduate. So this is the best way for us to keep tabs on that. So that's part of the lead mentor's role, is to participate in those quarterly meetings. Any questions as the CEO? Did you want me to cover anything else, Priya? It's a lot of detail. Reference the Gantt chart, and if there's any questions, any of the mentors or myself will go through and help you to understand what those are. Okay?
One of the things probably is the HubCamp is designed in a manner that meets what you need on the Gantt chart.
That's correct. So Priya mentioned, one of the things we try to do as a group is to align your Gantt chart with when you'll need to do it. So you don't need to know everything day one. We used to have the Advanced HubCamp consecutive. It was like every week for 12 weeks. So we spread that out over the course of the year because it was overwhelming to the teams, particularly the faculty teams. It was too much information, too fast. They couldn't do a deep dive, let alone do the tactical things they needed to do to get those activities done. So we spread it over the course of a month or a year. And the Gantt chart helps you to do that, as does the Advanced HubCamp courses. So we're not asking you to do something that you're not going to be required to meet that milestone during that time unless you're required to meet it during that time. So you're learning what you need to learn, and everything's kind of synced up against that Gantt chart. So keep that in mind. So whether you're the CEO or any other executive co-founding role, check the Gantt chart and start scheduling time on your calendar to do those activities, set up reminders so you know this is when I need to spend time working on this. And if I don't know how to do it, if I don't know QuickBooks, I'd better take the QuickBooks class. Make time in your schedule around the year so that you know 6 months, on month 6, you're gonna have to produce financials every month, right? And so you've got 6 months to decide how to learn QuickBooks. Right? So we're not going to tell you that. You're going to use that Gantt chart to schedule your work accordingly. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, the CFO. So we have the CFO here. Whatever you want to call you. Why don't we bring Jean up here? She hasn't gotten a moment here. Talk about a CFO's responsibility in a startup.
Well, so with the CFO role, it's the CFO and the COO is what I'm going to talk about because it's been my life for probably 25 years. So I've been an outsourced CFO, COO. I've been an in-house one where I ran the company in that role. So, but the CFO is really to do about finance. It's about the money. It's about how to make those decisions to pay the bills, how to calculate costs, how to really look at where you're starting and where you're ending. I mean, you're going to be paying bills, and at this stage, you have somebody who's one person, so she'll be doing everything. But it's really having to do with paying the bills, collecting the money, wherever that money is, helping determine how are we going to pay the bills, with what money are you going to use, and where are you going to get it from. So, like we're getting the grants. With that, you have to be very careful on what you spend it on because you have to justify it. and you're going to have to document it, and you're going to have to report it at your meetings. So the sooner that you are able to, you know, document and show where it's been and how you form it, which learning about what a profit and loss and balance sheet and the cash flows are is really important, and the format of that. QuickBooks is very easy. There's debate on whether it's online or desktop, doesn't matter. You need to learn that, because as soon as you start making it, the earlier that you start following a process of reporting your money, it's easier once you go along. And these are the things that the CFO helps with, or actually does. So it opens the bank account, does the EIN numbers, sets up the financials in however the way that your business is. If you're manufacturing, it's set up one way, services another. Valuation is down the road, as it says in March. So with a financial plan, that's down the road, but you're always planning your money, no matter what. And you're starting now and you're looking at, okay, what is it going to cost to create this product, or what is it going to cost for the services that you need? And that CFO helps find that money, or helps determine how much do you have to spend on it. So.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Yeah, you might be the COO too. So just to hit the one point home, at some point you'll be learning how to raise capital, and whether that capital comes from a grant or that capital comes from an angel investment group or a venture capital group, wherever those funds come from, you need to have a set of financials to show and estimate why you need that kind of funding and what you would do with that funding to scale your business. And so as you start to learn these basic, the basics about how to set up a set of financials for a startup company, that's going to lead you down the path of what you'll be doing with funding in case you need to raise it to scale your business, okay? So there's a lot of nuances to all of it, but we have enough resources here to help you to establish how and when you'll be going through that process. And so if you're a faculty member, and of course, you know, you want to win grants, and it might be potentially an SBIR grant or an NSF Corps grant, those are all funds that are going to come into your account, and you're going to have to follow some set of rules around how you spend that funding. Will help you to do that. But also how you're going to enter that information into QuickBooks. And what are you being taxed on, why, all of these things, and how do you share that information with an investor group, right? So essentially these grants that are available to startups de-risk the technology. So if you're in an NSF Corps team, for example, and you identify product market fit, then you move into SBIR, you're 6 to 7 times more likely to win that funding when you have the evidence to support that. And what you do with those dollars is really important to raise private capital. So there's a real, very specific pathway, and if those are some of your goals, to be thinking about the person that's going to oversee this component or this role and responsibility really kind of has to do that deep dive and make sure that the tactics are all right, so that when you start to put together a plan to ask for funding to be able to scale, then you'll be all that's been taken care of.
The form of the company is important too, because you really have to think about when you form this company, your tax implications, because none of this is tax-free. You're going to have to pay taxes, and also the implications with your capital structure and what your investors are and all of that. So there's limitations on what you choose. So when they did the research for C Corp versus LLC or whatever, there are implications on each one that will, down the road, all of a sudden you're like, why did we do that? So you just get good advice from accountants and that kind of thing. And that's really what CFO can, makes those relationships, whether it's banking, investors, accountants, lawyers, all of that. So they really support the CEO in those things that are detailed in the financials.
All right, now we're on COO.
Which is really the fun part to me, because you get to go in and really do the nitty-gritty of the details of making it happen. So the finances is fun to count the money and dole it out. Really more fun to count. But with the COO, I always love that role because you're out there, you're finding out where they're gonna reside, like where's the facility, how you're gonna build it out, the manufacturing process. So if it's a manufacturing, going and sourcing product and sourcing materials and sourcing software developers, helping with that and making sure the ball is rolling forward consistently. You know, you're going and you've got to figure out what machinery. So they're going out to, the COO will go out and find what do you need to build or make or do the job, and then going to the CFO and justifying the money. Because the CEO will go, yep, just go get it, and the CFO will be, no, we can't afford it, and the COO is going, but we can't do it if we don't. So, and a lot of the times, the CFO is responsible for IT, HR, and the finance. That's how I've seen it. Sometimes the COO is also over that, but, you know, the technology, how is it all going to connect? The CRM for the Salesforce, operations.